Your name, sir?
Bryan Vann.
And your role with Kindo?
CTO and co-founder of Kindo.
CTO and co-founder of Kindo. Have you done a startup before? Is this the first one? Have you kind of gone through this exercise before?
I'd worked on some startups in between undergrad and grad school, a few things kind of out of my garage, so to speak, and then a few smaller companies, but really this is the first real startup, the first venture-backed startup, we'll say.
I'm thinking, you had me at Garage, I'm thinking of Garage Days, and it's a great album by Metallica, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So let's talk, we're here, we're in San Francisco, we're at the Flatiron Wine, which I have to say, great pick. A little shout out to Jeannie for putting this together. How have the conversations been so far? Everybody's buzzing on AI, but everyone's also trying to interpret AI. How have you been dealing with your conversations thus far?
Yeah, we've had some really great conversations. A lot of interest and curiosity for how AI can augment the sort of the operations within these security teams. We kind of take a different approach to it. We were founded right around the time that ChatGPT came out, so we're kind of like an AI native company. We're not trying to bolt on AI to an existing product. So we're really kind of taken from a first principles approach, thinking about how can AI automate some of the key parts that are very human intensive in the security space. So we're not necessarily trying to have AI currently automate the things that already have automations from other platforms. We're really focused on what are the labor intensive things that humans have to do. And then beyond that, having it within a platform that gives the administrators complete governance control over it. So the ability to have that in a self-managed environment, the ability to set controls on which models are allowed, which DLP controls so they can filter out data from going to those models. So the whole governance control is kind of part of the first principles on how we've architected the system. And really now we're just focused on how do we provide the most utility in our agents as they're going to automate certain aspects of incident response or helping with red teaming. For example, really kind of at the core of our product that makes us different than existing SOAR applications is that rather than just kind of thinking about building out a run book in a static environment where there's a specific set of steps, maybe very specific branching logic that you build at build time, but at runtime it has to follow that exact path with some minor conditionals. We're really taking an AI first approach here where the assumption is that each type of incident is maybe its own unique snowflake. There might be some existing patterns to draw from, but that's really where these agents can really be super powerful in figuring out the path that makes sense for that particular environment. And they can learn from the past run books that you already have, the past incidents, the past examples. But these AIs are very good at few-shot learning, so if you give it a few examples of past flows, they can also generalize to how to find new pathways for novel incidents, for example. And that's all just within the incident response space. The platform itself can be generically applied to red teaming, looking for capture the flag events. And we're actually not just a SecOps platform, we're also a DevOps platform. So this also works for infrastructure automation, investigation of DevOps incidents, like my system's out, for example.
Well, what's interesting is you just hit on something. There's multiple different use cases. And I know that on the website we have a great solution brief where people can pull 6 down. Do you have a personal favorite? Obviously you're able to talk to all of them, but is there one that there's maybe one particular use case that is near and dear to your heart, or one that just kind of stands out as the Bryan Vann fave?
Well, given that I'm coming from the CTO, I'm coming from more of the engineering perspective rather than our CSO would probably have a different take on what his favorites are. But from my perspective in the DevOps space, what I really like about our platform is the ability to use it to have a one button click ability to go get to the root cause of a production incident.
Got it.
Setting up an agent that can look through our Grafana dashboards, follow through traces, logs to kind of identify very quickly which service is potentially having a problem, so that when we have some sort of blip in our uptime, we can very quickly say all right, is this a pattern that we've seen before that is still biting us, or is this something novel? And it can help us root cause that very quickly without me having to go bug humans every single time. So I think that's probably like my favorite use case of the platform, but probably because I come from the more development
Makes
DevOps
sense.
side of things. Yep.
Game changing, game changer. This is Kindo.ai. I hope you guys have enjoyed this segment.